Trekland HQ version 2, and we are live. Wow. 40 years ago, 35 years ago, remembering the birthing of my local cons. And what about yours? Today on episode 452 of Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47. And yes, Trekland Treks, your unique customized away mission for actual Star Trek location sites. Your choice. I work it out with you here around Southern California. A quick lunch. I concierge, I chauffeur, I prop and cosplay wrangle. All of it to make a memorable day for you. Real life living Star Trek, not on a stage, but out in the open most of the time. Get in touch with me at larrynemechek.com or treklandtreks.com. And finally, I can say this for you all going to STLV with an extra day up front. And I know it's coming in late, but there you go. Yes, I'm going to offer a tour out to the Valley of Fire, which is an hour away up from Las Vegas. If you're headed and you've got the Tuesday ahead free, or you can make it free, early morning departure, 8 a.m., we're beating the heat. Let me know. The page is not up there all the way, but be aware we'll have it up within the next couple of days. If you're really hot to trot about this, get in touch with me now. I have at least 2 going. I need 4 to really make it. That's for all you Vegasites who are going. And hey, if you're just in Vegas or nearby and want to come up for the day, sure. There's no rule you have to be attending STLV. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's a Tuesday. We're going to have a fun one. Today's going to be a little personal and with some props. So I'm glad you've all made it here to Trekland Tuesdays Live. Been doing this since, 2017. My goodness. About this time every day, because we can include everybody around the world too. I know it's not primetime Americas, but hopefully you're watching later on YouTube. And if you are, you can still be part of the conversation. You can still join in. And look, if you're with us live right now, YouTube is the best place to be because A, you're going to see all the comments in the chat. And what a chat community we have. The TTLers are a great bunch. You want to be here. If you're on Facebook, you're only going to see the Facebook comments. All right. And you want to see everybody's because, hey, if you're one of our veterans, if you're one of the familiar faces names, or if you're new, like, hey, lurking is fine. It's totally cool. But if you feel like it, join in. Let us know where you're coming from, where around the world. How's the weather? How's the trek where you are? How's your summer kicking off here in the 60th anniversary year of the franchise and the original series? And yes, the 25th anniversary of Enterprise and the 30th anniversary of First Contact and the 40th anniversary of the one with the whales, the voyage home, and on down the line. The 30th anniversary of Trials and Tribulations and Flashback, which were in turn 30th anniversary. Yeah, right. It's good to see everybody. Listen, we're still a little thin on Trek headlines, but I had one of those gobsmacking moments. I love that word from the Brits. We don't have anything quite. We say it stopped me in my tracks. Well, that's way too many words. Gobsmacking is great. And it's gob, not God. Gob as in smacked your gob. Gobsmacking moments the other day. My good friend, old colleague, Mark from Oklahoma City, back home, my original fandom area, posted the other day about, look, I sound off from whether I'm there or not in a given year. I love sounding out about SoonerCon. It's a hanger on. It survived. This is SoonerCon. What are we up to now? 35, I think, this year in a couple of weeks in Oklahoma City. SoonerCon's like so many that used to be around the country. It is a homegrown, fan-run, volunteer, nonprofit, aiding a charity, a local charity, type of old school fan get together in the best way, right? Used to be so many more of them before, I don't know, before the internet, before even more so than the internet. just the rise of the Comic-Cons. And this is a funny tale. I'm getting nostalgic because this is, as Mark reminded me, this is the 40th anniversary of the first SoonerCon. Yeah. Now, look, before I get too far, again, jump in the comments if you feel like it. Let us know what's going on with you. If you're watching us later on, keep the commentary going too. But no, this is going to be a little personal today, and yet, as we do everywhere in Trekland, Trek Files everywhere, we're going to reflect it back out and make it about everybody. But I'm going to start kind of personally, because this is a story, an anniversary that reflects so much about what fandom is about, so much about what just go-to is. Because you look, I don't care what it was. Was it the original fanzine writers? Was it the people that built clubs? The fan fiction writers who said, if you're going to cancel Star Trek in 1969, I don't care. I'll just make my own. Yeah. And they wrote their own stories. There was no, out of passion, out of need. There was no, oh, I'm going to build a fandom and revolutionize pop culture. That wasn't it. It was just react in the moment to the thing you had to do to get out of your system because of what this thing had done to affect you in a way that beyond movie stars and rock singers, I don't think anybody, pre-rock, the crooners. Before that, there had not been a paradigm like this that went away. It didn't hit a peak and burn out after 4 or 5, 6 years. No, it built and built and built and built. And yeah, those fan fiction writers who, that was the outlet they chose. Most of them, some of them, a few babies, looked at crossover with real science, or actually what we now call world building in baby steps. But basically that first wave of fandom looked around, saw what there was, wanted something. They didn't see it, so they made it themselves. Whether that was just writing stories or creating fanzines or networking together in clubs and later on conventions. Because look, the sci-fi lit-cons had been around since the 30s. Right. First fandom goes back to right before World War II. Yes, they got together. Foria Ackerman goes back to those days. The classic authors go back. The first Worldcon was in 37, 38, I think. And then came back with a vengeance after World War II and then the 50s and 60s. And don't think that media helped at the beginning. That's part of why Star Trek is Star Trek. There was nothing on screen. The literary sci-fi was it. With art, right? With the attendant spin-offs. And we... thanks to Star Trek being so different and affecting people in such a different way, of course they all flocked to the LitCons, right? The regional LitCon, of which there weren't that many. They swelled the numbers. At first they were welcomed in. Oh my gosh, look what Star Trek has done. Because everybody loves Star Trek. It was intelligent science fiction for the first time on TV as a regular cast. The only other thing there'd been was Twilight Zone. And, we adjust to, the Outer Limits on a good week, not Lost in Space. And it didn't take long for the single-mindedness, which is a good thing and a bad thing, to drive the LitCon folks crazy. And they tried to shame and tried to expand the horizon. You really should read your classics. This is nice. The guy with the ears is nice, but you really should read if you really want to be a fan. They were too busy fleshing out this world and this fandom. So finally, they kind of got, why don't you guys just go off and do your own conventions? And they did. And today we have Comic-Con fandom. I'm just saying that prevalence was there. That was the 70s. And when you were in the middle of the country, you would read about that first New York con and even the ones in LA that Bijo was starting at a time when everything Star Trek was new and infant and baby. And we hung on. I know I'm sounding a million years old here, but we hung on to everything in print that was national, whether it was the Making of Star Trek book or David Gerrold's books, The Making of Tribbles, or The World of Star Trek, not the making of, but The World of Star Trek, which kind of was an update 5 years later, the giant poster book, and of course the blueprints, the tech manual. I mean, these are the golden tablets of early Star Trek. The tech manual, Bijo's Concordance, the fan edition, and when it went pro, the medical reference. Nobody knew it in the fan edition, but when it went pro. And by that time, boom, the soap opera of a future Star Trek, and we were into the movie era, and we're off and running. And you would look at the cons, Chicago, where else? And go, oh, wow, someday I'll get to New York. Someday I'll get to LA. And if you were on those places already, on you, you were so lucky. You were there at the beginning. But for those of us who were out in the middle of nowhere, the flyover states, and yet by the early 70s, 80s, okay, I'll just date it, people were starting to get that same feeling that look around, it doesn't exist, and boom, we'll do it. I'll make it myself. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. And after a few years of that, yes, before my time, the Starbase, the Star Trek Association before Starfleet International, before the fleet, before any other chapter-based organized fan group, the original national-focused structured Star Trek organization was called Star Trek Association for Revival. We've talked about this on the Trek Files. You can go back and find some early episodes. And if you were a chapter of Star Trek Association for Revival, you were a star base. Get it? STAR. And you were a city. And yes, the first one was organized in San Diego. Starbase San Diego was the first and one of the longest living. And the Starbase San Diego nexus was where Franz Joseph Schnabelt's daughter were going to San Diego State, and were the nexus of the creative pool that led to, oh my God, the blueprints and the tech manual. That originated from that group. And they popped up all over the country. And yes, in 1974, there was one in Oklahoma City, Starbase OKC, and one in Tulsa. And within 4 or 5 years, the one in Tulsa, Starbase Tulsa, yielded Oklahoma's first fan-run convention called OCON. I say that it was first once the high school kids in Starbase OKC, organized a con. They did a picket of the local TV station, the ABC affiliate, when it dropped after school Star Trek. They picketed in 1975 because it was cool. And it always took 4 years for everything to come in from the coast into the middle, we used to say. Multicon was the first fan run. I don't have any records about it. I'd love to find somebody that was part of that. I think they're still out there because they were just high school kids in 75. It was small. I don't know if it went in the hole. I don't know how humble it was, but it did happen. Didn't happen again. And by the time I was in college, there was a long-standing sci-fi club at the University of Oklahoma, at OU, called NOSFA, the Norman Beyond Campus. It was for the community. Norman, Oklahoma Science Fiction Association, or NOSFA. I know. And by that time, I'm in college at my small state school. I figure out how, by the second year, I figure out how the simple little system for organizing an official college club, get a sponsor, yada, yada. We start Starbase ECU. We weren't a chapter of STAR, but that's what you named your local chapters. Right. Okay. That's not East Carolina either. That is East Central Oklahoma State University. We did a couple of mini cons because we looked around. It wasn't there. We started it. I started it with friends. The second year, we even got grants to have 2 authors come in. Mike McQuay, wasn't Russell Bates. We had 2 authors come in. Then I'm off. I'm out. I'm working a year in touch with the Star people who tried to do a convention twice, BabelCon. The second one with Jimmy Doohan didn't make the money. It failed. No more BabelCons. Now, I'm going into all these weeds of local history in Oklahoma City because it's the same thing happening all over the country. This is my personal story, but this kind of saga is happening all over the country, where we transcend from, New York and, LA to, Chicago. Other place, Atlanta. How old is Dragon Con now? And eventually the fan con movement filtered in. At the same time, those 2 young kids in New York, Adam and Gary, are starting their baby version of what becomes creation. Those 2 entrepreneurs is the pretty word. And eventually we have professional cons, which is a whole other thing. I'm in grad school. I come back from grad school. I look around. The fandom scene seems dead. I go away to college. I come back to my grad degree and come back. And while I'm getting a life together, having a real job, I look around. There's nothing happening in fandom. Well, we have to start something. My buddies and I get together. We start trying to organize a convention until I found out that there is a resurgent group, thanks to the Wrath of Khan, a resurgent group of OKC, Starbase OKC, which almost died away. Gosh, stop me if you've ever heard this before, but fan groups come and go. Things evolve. They grow, they shrink, they disappear. People move on. Clubs fight. They divide. People go, yeah, right. It's like every other form of human endeavor, especially one out of passion. The ego gets involved. But this was a case where there was a rebirth, a rebound, and SoonerCon, what a name to call a con in Oklahoma. SoonerCon was on the books. At the time I stumbled into it, they were only a few months away from the June 6th through the 8th, 1986 planned opening. But I asked if they had anybody doing publicity. And they were like, no, which is what everybody does. The old school, everybody from old school little theater to anybody putting on a show of any kind, right? You're so into doing it that you forgot to tell the world, and you get it and you open the doors to whatever it is. And then you're like, oh, we forgot to tell anybody. I knew that. So I jumped in with about 2 or 3 months to go and tried to promote it in the days when, kids, the geeks had not yet won. We're talking the Reagan 80s. We're talking a year before Next Generation, although we're talking before we even knew Next Generation was happening. Within 3 months, the announcements came, now that I look back. But at the time, you are scratching and clawing for any legit inches in a newspaper. Other than that, what you had in your own power was you took flyers to bookstores, you took flyers to game shops. In a pre-digital, pre-internet world, yeah, that's what you did. And you compiled an actual-to-God mailing list that when you got stable enough, you applied for second-class bulk postage, and eventually you had your bulk mailing party where you had your 1 or 2 or 3,000 mailing labels printed off, and everybody sat around and stuck them on the flyer that you folded and stapled and bundled up by zip code to send out. If you were lucky and established, you had a mailing list. But we had a baby mailing list and flyers. And that first SoonerCon had about 200 people with its little bitty program book. And guess, you've caught me. I want to say, Gene, I've gone blank on his name. We had an author and we had an artist. It's the best LitCon structure, but we had media included. Because here's the other thing, and I'll tell you what. I got to show you something that's been in a bundle, though. This has been packed away for 13 years. I need to restore it. But I want to show you something. At one point, eventually, I took all my FanCon badges and any badge when I was at a convention, when we used to have the pin-ons, and if you were on staff or you were a panelist or a speaker, you had the ribbons, right? That showed immediately. You even had you had color codes, showed the day. So if you'd only paid for a Saturday badge, you could instantly be spotted. You had a 3-day or a Friday or Saturday or a Sunday only, right? Then you had ribbons off, just like any other organization would have ribbons. And we ordered it from the same thing that any event company would do. After a few years, I started collecting them on a bulletin board. And, the last time, two moves ago, it went into a bag. It's going to get out. It's going to get restored. I want to show you something. Now, it's been a little worse for wear. And it starts up here with the OFCon, which was a dealer's con, where I saw my bloopers for the... See, I'm dropping buttons. There were metal pin-on buttons that didn't have your name, which tended to be more commercial cons, but a fan con, you had your badge, so you could put your name on it, so everybody knew what you were. And this is, what is this? I'm in high school. So we get down to attending cons down to, where are you? Right here. Oh, I'm going to take it off. Can you see me still? Here we go. I've taken a picture of this so I can recreate it. Yeah. I'm going to put this down before we do any more damage. There you go. There you go. The ink has faded. Doesn't say SoonerCon 1, it just says SoonerCon. And that purple ribbon here originally, it was a purple ribbon that said committee, and the red ribbon that's lost its gold. I don't know if you can see it. We didn't have panelists. You couldn't order a panelist ribbon. So we all had speakers, and the gold has just about left it. Yeah. I got to recreate. I've got to restore this. I have to repair this and restore it. Most of the ones that are missing, almost all the ones that are missing were just loose. And I have to, I have to do that. On that board was, I thought I'd lost it, but on the board is a ticket stub from the first creation that I think I've attended, that I only went to in Wichita, Kansas. I was a guest because the companion had just come out. It's from 1992. Now, I've got a box of badges. Now we all have, the badges look more like this, right? Because Comic-Con World took over. And that's an interesting bit in itself too, gang. I want to show you something here. As much as the badge, what's fun is, make sure I don't lose any more here. What's fun is, well, I mentioned Star OKC. It's cool. Here, how about a t-shirt? T-shirts were what we had. T-shirts have kind of made a comeback, right? So in the heat of Oklahoma weather, this was the 1980s edition of Star. Kind of like, it was a takeoff on the Flash Gordon movie logo, see? But this was from the 80s. This is very Reagan 80s looking, and Flash Gordon. At the time of SoonerCon, well, I know the movies had come out at the time of SoonerCon in 86. This was a few years old, but the original Star OKC modern t-shirt was basically, Mark Alfred again did this. It was modeled, look at the purse scan. There's the little purse scan buckle. I think this is the t-shirt I wore at the time of the first SoonerCon. The t-shirt I really wore, there were a few SoonerCon t-shirts, maybe 20 or 30 or 40, because what we wore, what I had was, that weekend was, can you see this? The staff. Where are you? Oh, it's over here. Sorry, I'm backwards. Yep. Everybody who was staff wore this. The sad thing is, pre-iCam, pre-iPhone cams, I don't think I have any pictures. I knew I had to have taken some, but back then, and I had my 85 millimeter, my 35 millimeter slides or prints. I haven't dug to see if I have photos from SoonerCon 1, the Northwest Hilton, because it immediately, the leadership, the one that was founded by my friends Mike Hodge and Tamara Hodge, I mentioned Mark, a lot of old-time Central Oklahoma fandom people were there putting it together. A lot of that trust wound up moving away. Mark is still there. A lot of people moved to the Northwest, but the team turned over, and some of the impetus for SoonerCon immediately changed into a LitCon of resume-building people, because the ultimate goal was to have a WorldCon, to host bid and host and try to win a WorldCon and host a WorldCon. That was the ultimate goal of all old school LitCon people, which at the time in their world, MediaCon, Star Trek and Star Wars was, ew. Let the minions have that. We're talking real sci-fi. So when you talk to me about gatekeeping, I always go back to the old lit snob, LitCon gatekeeping against media. What that meant was I loved everybody, but immediately the SoonerCons that came along later all went down this path of strict. So you had an artist guest of honor and an author guest of honor. Oh, and filking. Oh, filk singing was that was okay. Now that was okay somehow. But having actors or creatives from Star Trek or anything else, oh my God. Oh my God. They will find out that we're having media people. I'm telling you. This is the 40th anniversary year of SoonerCon, which has evolved way beyond that. The world is beyond that. And today, yeah, you see multimedia. The modern SoonerCons have had all kinds of Star Trek people as well as people from across media. And yes, visual effects people, especially people with an Oklahoma native connection, they try to look at that first, but that doesn't stop. Lots of Star Trek folks have been by SoonerCon, just as they've been at a lot of the regional cons. In fact, SoonerCon is one of these old school lit cons that, unlike others, in fact, one of them, the old school lit con in Salt Lake, not Salt Lake Comic Con, which is now FanX, but the original Salt Lake LitCon, I was a guest at the last one because the kids all just want to go to Comic Con and not do all this work. A lot of the LitCons, if they didn't pivot somehow, they died along the way. All those 60s and 70s, and legendary LunaCon in New York, I think, is even gone. A lot of places along the way. Dealers, when the media boom, when the Trek and Star Wars boom happened, like John Harper at Starbase 21 in Tulsa, who hosted the Star Trek Expos in Tulsa. And of course, Steve and Kathy Walker, Steve Walker, who's passed now, but Starland, the catalog, became StarCon and Starfest, the conventions in Denver, which were my first go-to conventions to go to because they were good old school Star Trek. Cons for years in Dallas. And again, I'm looking at my middle of the country here. Wherever you were around the country, you know what I'm talking about. You could always tell an old school lit con because they made a pun out of con, right? Now, SoonerCon, not so much, but a lot of them, conniption, convolution. I mean, you worked con into the name somehow, and it was like the little clue that it was a sci-fi con. But back home, after 4, 5, 6 years of SoonerCon growing, that first one had 200 people, 250, 300, 400. It's growing slowly. It's getting a regional reach. The regional network, Arcon, I can still remember them. Armadillo Con in Austin is still happening, I think. But Arcon in St. Louis, was it St. Louis or was it Kansas City? I'm going blank here, but the old school LitCons had a network. Everybody went back and forth. Their organizers were each other's fan guests of honor. RockCon was in Little Rock. Yeah. That all was a thing. And it was all the same kind of mindset, more or less. And as Next Generation boomed, and as I got a connection to it, even just as a TV reporter with the mailouts, much less by the time of, the companion about to come along, but me doing my concordances that the writers were using. And so having these connections all of a sudden to reborn Star Trek, it was so frustrating not to bring any of that to, among my friends, the prevailing view. So what did I do once again? And I say me, you do the same thing. People have done the same thing. I looked around, it wasn't there, so I did it. I didn't step on any toes. I opened it up to anybody who wanted to come over, but we started our own MediaCon, and it was called, thought about BoomerCon as a corollary to Sooner, but no, we didn't go there. We went to, I know you're going to think of this, ThunderCon. And you're saying, oh, Larry, you're thinking of the Thunder, the NBA, Oklahoma City's. No, this was 17, 18 years before the Thunder. No, ThunderCon was based on the 45th Infantry Division of Oklahoma with the Thunderbird there. That was their patch. And also just thunder and tornadoes in general. No. And yeah, so Kevin, my old good friend Kevin Hopkins, we took the stylized Indian, right, Thunderbird, and personified it into something that kind of looked like a bald eagle, but it was a little more. And yeah, there's the Enterprise D. And we started ThunderCon. We had more people at the first little ThunderCon than SoonerCon was having at the time. And everybody accused me of working harder on that. Gang, when you have TV, you're going to have bigger numbers than readers. I'm sorry. It's not a value judgment. It's just the math. It's the nature of media. ThunderCon got off with a kick. Calamini, I'll tell these stories someday, but Calamini was our first guest. But here's the thing. This is 2026. It's amazing to me. It gobsmacked me that SoonerCon was 40 years ago this weekend. The first ThunderCon was also in June, 35 years ago, a weekend back. It was actually May 29th to June 2nd, May 31st to June 2nd. What is it about June? Well, I know it's like kids are first out of school, and we're out of school in mid-May. Used to be anyway. You were out of school in mid-May. Memorial Day was a holiday, and people were like, we're already out. Parents got off. But ThunderCon went to June because we knew that's when Star Trek was on hiatus. It was hopeless for Oklahoma City to try to invite somebody working on a show they were going to fly in and out of. So we waited until the shows were not filming before we looked for actors and creatives. And we did. Calamini, who was still not a regular on DS9, but who was about to be, but who was still recurring on TNG, the #1 recurring actor on TNG, was our first guest. And so we were simple. We built it up. We barely broke even. And I think we had $50 to give our charity the first year. But we moved on. And by the time of #2, I was working on the companion book. And we built a think tank again to take it and run it. And ThunderCon lasted about 8 editions after we had moved to LA. And the think tank was spreading out and moving off again. And it wasn't quite the hobby that running SoonerCon was, because you're dealing with real dollars. And this is, again, baby steps internet, but we were paying for TV ads, one TV ad. I'm gone through all this, aside from the personal shock that SoonerCon was 40 years ago this weekend, and ThunderCon was 35 years ago this weekend, which also means that we're coming up on, wasn't planned this way, but we birthed ThunderCon 2 weeks before, or 3 weeks before Janet and I got married. I did not plan to be married 3 weeks after we ran our first con with an overhead and a little nail biting involved. But it struck me how, A, they're at the same time. B, this is just cool that we've got anniversaries that line up like this in a fandom that loves its anniversaries. I have a couple of personal ones here on top of that. And C, that it was only 5 years between those. There was nothing here, and a reborn fan group is going to put on its first show, its first con, and then 5 years passed where things are booming enough that we have to go off and split off our own, just like the original New York con folk started the first New York con because they weren't really welcome or understood anywhere else. Again, I'm saying wherever you're seeing this from, in your own burg, maybe recently, cons that started because there was nothing going on. Some group said, nothing's happening, we'll make our own. By God, we'll do it. And maybe you learned some lessons along the way. Maybe you figured out who had the right skills to take on something like that. Or maybe who had the right skills to be in leadership versus play a supporting role in their niche. All of those fun lessons that it's fun to learn when you're in your 20s and 30s. Or hell, your 50s and 60s and 70s. I'm not being ageist here. I'm just saying. And of course, it's a backdrop of what's the culture doing? Did the geeks win yet? Do you have to scrape and claw and beg for 3 inches of column space, 4 inches, 5 in your newspaper, your legit newspaper? Well, that sure changed. That's changed with MediaCons. When we had actors, you just tie into the local affiliate running. Oh my gosh, they're putting you on their news, giving you a bargain rate on commercials because you're helping promote their show. They're thrilled to have that actor, and they're going to come piggyback their own advertising promotion when you've paid to have the actor come in. Oh yeah, in the world of the 90s, sure. It was so much easier than doing little dinky SoonerCon. But Everybody had their aficionados. The original run of SoonerCon ended for about 8 years, came back in the world of Comic Cons in 2006, 2007. The modern SoonerCon is broad minded that way, not part of the old school. Look at that. Because here's the thing, the proof is in the pudding. SoonerCon is a con that survived that time. It pivoted, it looked around, and it got over itself. Or the people that had that mindset got over themselves. What's funny is you still do see the old school LitCon model going everywhere, especially in the larger cities. It was too niche now. It's like it's made full circle to being niche again. LA is a place. LostCon is still that way on Thanksgiving weekend. Not the Thursday, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now, they're not closed-minded. We've done media panels. One of their guests of honor this year is Ron D. Moore. So it's not quite the old, shades on, oh, we're gatekeeping out the non-literature purity test is not part of it anymore. But a lot of those original cons did not make it into the geek era, did not make it into the Comic-Con era, because then the little Comic-Cons became about more than just, as San Diego, more than just old dusty boxes of comics that old comic guys are going through. No, when Hollywood got involved, oh, looky there, it kind of broke the wall. When Hollywood started making superhero movies and, horror, fantasy, go down the line, it kind of started breaking down that wall. And then the studio saw it as a marketing thing. And that's when you had the modern era. People want to say, Iron Man, Twilight, it was that era that blew open San Diego. Now every little town wants a Comic-Con. They want to help. And people who jump up to start cons, Comic-Con formats now, they get help. They get tax help. They get hotel. The chambers of commerce and visitors bureaus bend over backwards to have it's happened to SoonerCon. They were lured away to an Oklahoma City suburb 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and now they've been lured down to Norman from Midwest City. So yes, everybody is thrilled to have a Comic-Con because that's hotel nights. That's, and if it's not during overlapping a sports time or anything else happening, if it's a dead time of year for that particular burg, they love it. Filling up hotels, filling up restaurants. Are you kidding me? Helping the sales tax where it might not otherwise get that boost. So yeah, the world, dollar signs, baby, dollar signs. So that's fine. That's a nice sidebar. It's not the little kid. We weren't in the closet. We were banging and scraping and screaming to get some attention back in the day. We didn't get any respect. Now they're respected. The dollar and the mighty dollar talks. And yeah, this year's SoonerCon is in 2 weeks. They're in Norman, SoonerCon.com. If you're in the greater region, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arkansas, Missouri, it's an easy day's trip down. And a lot of fun. This is not a year for me this year, maybe next year. Last year, many years before, and of course they honored me with my 10 years ago, they started a Hall of Fame of sorts. That's what this is. They call it the Nucleon Award. I watched a lot of native or connected Oklahomans get this for starting with C.J. Sherry, the author, award-winning, Hugo Nebula winning author. Our local horror movie Count Gregor, John Ferguson, was given this once. But I'm very proud of this. The Nucleon Award, for the sponsoring nonprofit for SoonerCon, which is another thing. The original SoonerCons in a simpler time were just sponsored by Star OKC. After the comeback, they fostered a nonprofit based on educational outreach. And that's the year-long mission, but SoonerCon is to go. It's not just about SoonerCon. So they go into schools. They go into all kinds of places. The science overlap, the aerospace, Oklahoma's big aerospace industry. I mean, they look at that. The charity has always been a factor. We've always historically looked at kids and little kids and babies a lot, but it varies from year to year. I just remember Infant Crisis Services for years was the charity for ThunderCon, and a lot of years SoonerCon as well. But I'm very proud of this from 2022. Every couple of years, they have a new honoree inductee into the Nucleon Awards, the Oklahoma Speculative Fiction Hall of Fame. And that's why this popped up a couple of years ago. So yes, very stable, very legit, by the book. An actual 501c3 nonprofit is running SoonerCon. Whether that's true of all the cons, I don't know, but it's a very, they have corporate sponsorships. Everybody has a good time. And yes, and I won't mention names, but the old school bit of the professional, what we used to call the chain con, which was corporate and didn't care about your locality. And if they were smart, if they saw a fan con grow up, they would go in, and we used to call it jumping. They'd go in and jump it a month ahead of time. Yeah, Creation did that back in the day with the old model. There's another convention that does that pooled budget business model and jumps in a month at a time there. It happens at other places too. But, it's big enough. The world seems big enough to support both. I just always like to make sure that folks know the difference, because that's a factor that's still out there. So here's what I'm saying, gang. Here's what I'm saying first. I've been talking about conventions. The world is so much fuller now. We have podcasts. We have live streams, live or recorded, right? We have camera shows. A lot of people, when you act on that original passion point, in 1967, they wrote their own stories. In the 80s, they organized clubs and tried to do conventions. Sometimes they weren't up to it. Sometimes they did just fine. What do we have now? What are the tools? What are the toys we have to play with? We got digital cameras. We got modems. We got the internet. We got CG and AI. And we have the ability to not just need word of mouth or a resume or a calling card. You can ask guest X, and they can go to your YouTube channel and see what you've done. And they can decide, are you an interesting, adorable startup that's a little naive and a little rough around the edges? Are you somebody who's, oh my God, like a lot of folks in the chat today, a lot of people in my communities, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they were a fan. They looked around, didn't see what they wanted, and started it. Yeah. I'm looking at you, Ed. I'm looking at you, Chris. I'm looking at you, Jesse. And that's just for starters. That's the folks that commonly, folks back east, folks around the world. The passion point that everybody did in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s to start a con. Well, that's a lot of people and business, doing your own YouTube, even if you're editing your audio or you're editing your video. That's work. That's just you in your little box. You don't have to answer for all these people, all these volunteers, all these occasionally troublesome egos, the learning curve. And yeah, that overhead, the specter of going under and losing your shirt with a con, right? All of that's minimized when you just have a podcast. And yet there's the passive fan that loves just walking down to the Comic-Con and enjoying the show. They walk in, they just do what we used to call it sheep fan. Walk over here, go over here, stand here, wait here, get in this line, that's fine. But some folks wanted more. And yes, some people were into it for the ego of meeting the stars and their organization skill kind of thing. You find those. If they got too starry-eyed, they lose their shirt for the thrill of meeting the stars. That happened famously. I'm trying to wrap up a documentary about something that happened with good intentions, not starry eyes, but good intentions, the Con of Wrath. And it's happened more than once. There have been infamous stories. The fan lore out there is amazing. When people bit off a little more they could chew, or they didn't quite realize what they were going to chew was spiced the way it was. But all this to say that those impulses, those moods, those tones, those goals, what drove people because they loved the thing, Star Trek or something else. And maybe they were on an ego trip and wanted to build a power base, but most of the time they just wanted the thing that they didn't see. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Dan Madsen, who started the official Star Trek fan club, and instead of being shut down, created a new paradigm, a new model. And I'm looking at you, Tony Pascal. Yeah, trekmovie.com, a news site that back in when things shifted, the world shifted, the tech, the landscape, and it was available to jump in and go and do. When Zoom started and we had a pandemic, the original GalaxyCon jumped online. I had individuals doing it. Yeah, VTC did it. My friend Neil had, what was it called? Lockdown Con. People jumped out with that impulse, but sure, GalaxyCon did it on a commercial scale, but they did it when the world was going, oh my God, pandemic, we have to stay home. How will fandom survive? And how will people make a living? There are inflection points along the way where that happens. So when you can pile up 40 years with a bumpy history along the way, there were 8 years SoonerCon didn't exist, but you look around the country, look in your hometown, your region. And I know the internet and Zooming and all of this has broken down so many barriers for the good, You can talk to people, whether it's your audience or your host or a guest. You're an audience member seeing a guest, or you're a host who never dreamed you'd get to interview X, Y, and Z, or that they would pay you the time of day unless you'd been around for 20 years. Live, right? Live, backstage, in person, in those green rooms. So that's the world we live in now. And that's where a lot of this passion builds to and organizes. And yeah, the footprint's smaller. It's a lot less riskier financially. Occasionally you hear of somebody trying to build a podcast or a live stream camera show, YouTube empire, and it collapses. Usually it's not about money, though, these days. Maybe there's an Achilles heel that kind of dooms the project. So we're in a world today where even as our franchises have their ups and downs, Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, whatever, people are excited. People are excited about, say, the gaming world and this new Star Trek title, Mysterious Frontier, whatever it is. I see people so excited for that, even though it's just a game, and gaming's not my thing. But for all the world that made game receipts bigger than box office receipts starting 10, 15 years ago, that's a big deal. And the passion point goes there. And we're in a time when we have the tools and the toys and the platforms for people who say, the thing I want is not out here right now. I'm going to go get it. I'm going to make it. And yet maybe I'll get a partner. Maybe I'll do some homework first. Hopefully they do some research and homework and look around. But whatever happens, maybe the footprint is not so huge that even if they fail, they can learn and come back around, circle back around, without the overhead being so fatal if they don't make it the first try, as it was when we were trying to do conventions. And you were always eternally worried. We had friends who lost their house with one of those early cons, and they were as sincere as the day is long. 20-somethings. 40 years. 40 years. I'm saying this to everybody around the country. I'm saying this around everybody around the world. You know some of the conventions you love the most, the ones that maintain their fannishness. They're not just another chapter in a corporate con, a chain con, as we used to call it. They're not just another location for a chain con, but even that home office of that chain started off with those two brothers in Manhattan when they were 14. Looking at you, Adam and Gary. And around the world, right? There are still some that are with us that have that accumulated, who stayed media, Shore Leave, FedCon in Germany. Some of the old school. I miss Starland so much. I miss Starfest and StarCon in Denver, even though I didn't get to go the last few years much from Bering. Comic-Con is a nonprofit. San Diego, kind of the granddaddy. Everybody had a Comic-Con. It was a little bitty thing in a motel. It's Hollywood blew that up, starting with San Diego as a lark coming down from LA. And then all the ones that have boomed, and in New York, and all the ones that have boomed around the country, or whatever it was called locally, in Houston, in Dallas, in Denver, in Seattle, Emerald City, Rose City. I mean, Chicago, you know, Boston, everybody had their, Atlanta, the roots of Dragon Con, very fannish. And whatever size they are now, the ones that survived found out the way to survive. Maybe they just had the luxury of a population base. And it could buffer them as they made mistakes or had learning curve. Sometimes not so much. And sometimes as we got into the aughts and the teens, some concoms, you know, CONCOM, it's the convention committee. Some of the concoms just couldn't adjust. This is the way we've always done it. Well, the world was changing and they couldn't make the pivot. And I know, and then even when they realized it, it's almost like they realized it was too late. And oh my God, if there was a Comic-Con coming in, homegrown or as a chain in their town, they gave up the ghost. That's when the fandom aged out. Not so much of an IP, but they aged out of the con. The kids didn't see any value in volunteering and helping and building. Or the CONCOM leadership had done it themselves the same way all this time and didn't allow for any input. So kids took their dollars and their bucks and their time elsewhere. It's amazing how it happened differently all over the country. I'm saying all this to share a little bit of my local history with everybody, but also to hopefully, you know, rekindle. If you are in a place where the old original con is still going and do you know much about the history? Has the history been preserved? And by the same token, if you live in a place where there isn't anything like this, maybe there was in the past, even if it was just for 2 or 3 years, has any of that history been preserved? I donated a lot of my ThunderCon and SoonerCon notes and memos and all the planning documents, a lot of that I donated to the Oklahoma Pop Culture Museum under the Oklahoma State History Museum in Oklahoma, which is now getting its own new building. Is going to be full of, you know, Bob Wills and the Flaming Lips, and name how many scientists and country singers and pop singers and athletes, although the athletes have their own sports hall of fame. And I wanted to show what the grassroots was doing for pop culture before the geeks won. And here we were. Here are the seeds we planted. And I'm going to give them some more of that. But what about you in your area? Who's preserving that history there? I've said this before, but it's been a long time. If there's something in your area, wherever you are, that's surviving and thriving or barely hanging on, or it gave up the ghost a long time ago in the realm of sci-fi cons, fandoms, pop culture, events of that nature, dig it out. Maybe you were too young to know, but maybe you can still find the people and interview them. I wish somebody with a podcast or somebody with a video show, a cam show on YouTube or wherever, would take that up as their mission, maybe their whole goal, their whole, raison d'etre. That's what the show's about. And go find, and with Zoom, you can go around the country and do that, or around the world and do that. And find the folks that worked on these things that were our building bones and our building blocks, our touchstones for the fandom that we have today, that's evolved along with the tech and the media that we have today. I just know that, no thanks to me, although I hung on to things and I've given it over. Thanks to folks back home like Mark, who have amassed you can find it online, the glory days of Star OKC and all the old newsletters when you brought in your pages and everybody assembled the newsletter together. Those days, and you can laugh and you can say, well, that was the blacksmith shop. That was the Model T era of fandom, but it led to what we have today. And as I say about everything, gang, don't get too cocky. Great kid, don't get cocky. Don't laugh too much about the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, much less the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, because someday they're going to be laughing about the new teens and the new 20s 30 and 40 years from now. I'm assuming that we're all still doing this in some form or fashion 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 years from now. And those folks will be really glad that you and me and we all did our part to preserve this. Because look, No longer is it going to linger. There, Lost LA, which is a local show that our local PBS station does here in LA, just did an episode last year about history of LA, the national level and the local level of science fiction fandom in Los Angeles. And it was just a tiny scope. A little bit about Foria Ackerman and the Acker Mansion, a little bit about the fanzines era, and a little bit of overlap with Hollywood. You know, a lot about LASFAS, the LA science fantasy society, that was long before, and had authors as members long before Dorothy Fontana and David Gerald and B. Joe Trimble and John. And all of them were members, as well as a big help. They had their own clubhouse house for years, long before that and after. And it's a stepping stone of recalling some of it. But that wasn't just LA. Every place was like that. Tulsa, Oklahoma City. Every place that used to, if not still, has a LitCon, has a history there. And how it's transcended into the Marvel, DC, game, whatever, is fascinating. Wow, 40 years, 35 years. And these kids, they have no clue what they owe us. They have no clue that the Comic-Con reaction blew up thanks to Star Trek. And thanks to people in every little city back in the day. Sometimes they fell on their face. Once or twice they lost their shirt, if not their house. I didn't. I kept all my shirts. Anyway, it's June. The SummerCon season is upon us. I'm looking forward to seeing folks at San Diego and, yes, at Trek Vegas. So, and all the things that are happening. Long Island Trek is happening. Speaking of little cons that could, hang in there, guys, as your business model adjusts. Long Island Trek. Other ones around, FedCon just happened over Europe, around the world. And we don't have much of a focus beyond Europe, a little bit of Australia, but cons in Africa and Asia and the Middle East, South America. I remember hearing about the first Star Trek convention in Mexico from our friends down there 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Brazil, you see all these media expositions and exhibitions where they're taking the Star Trek cast down different places in Brazil. Yeah, it's a global thing. It's a global thing. But the history, and it should not be lost, the stepping stones and the connection from then to now, as we do on the Trek Files. History is great, but what does it mean for us today? And if we lose the history, we just lose insight into today, aside from the coolness of history. Gang, I hope you didn't mind me peeling back some personal bits here, but I had a method in my madness. And it's, as always, I will always encourage you to go and do that. Look, there's a whole sidebar right now that my Will Rogers side is mixed up with the Route 66 Centennial right now, because Route 66 is the Will Rogers Highway. What a great marriage of highway and human, which I just talked about last weekend, but at our live event kicking off the official caravan. So if you're anywhere along the Route 66 path, be on the lookout. I can't believe you'd not hear about it, especially if you're in a smaller town. As the Route 66 official caravan, they've got 20 nights on the road between Santa Monica, LA, and Chicago. And it's the same kind of thing. Restoring these stories. It's not, the past doesn't have to be dusty and old, and it's certainly not worthless, because what is that? He who forgets the past is doomed to repeat it. Well, look at the days in a big way here. But even in just not so much the survival mode, don't put dumb, stupid, crook people in power who will rob you blind and make you love it. That's not a good idea for long-term success. But even just the colorfulness and the richness and the vibrancy of life and culture, and what was lost when the Library of Alexandria burned, and in our little tiny way, in our little tiny corner here with Trek that's influenced so many millions of people around the world. It's me and you, if you're watching this, I'm sure it has. in the middle of doing what we do, will all the video and all the audio of all our podcasts and all our shows, will that survive 100 years? I hope down the line somebody figures out a way to have it do so. Nobody's even thinking about that. We've got Civil War letters for Ken Burns. We have memos from the 60s and 70s and 80s for the Trek Files. I hope all of our work here lasts, and from the prior generations we're able to bring to it, I hope it lasts too. And it's all about enriching our fun and our passion, but also making us mindful. Hopefully we don't ever succumb to the blinders. We hopefully never succumb too much to being stuck in our ruts. Oh, like those old Litsnob con folks were, when they couldn't see the media wave coming and could have embraced it and had a much bigger umbrella, much bigger tent, instead of getting all gatekeepery before the word was even invented. Gang, I think I've talked plenty today. A little indulgent, but I hope I planted some seeds. What's everybody thinking after all this? And look, if you're watching us later on YouTube, sure, I invite you to show up some Tuesday when you can. I know it's a pain if you're here in the States to come by at 1-ish Pacific, 4-ish Eastern, and join us and be part of the live conversation. But if you're watching us later on YouTube, please jump in. Hopefully I've pushed a button here or there, made you think of something. Love for you to jump in and add to the conversation here on the YouTube commentary. All right. Now, for everybody live, I'm going to take a micro break as always, and then I will get into this chat. I hope I stirred something up. I hope we've stirred something up today. But before I do, just a real quick shout out, of course, with all my Patreons. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. I keep picking people up. So a big thank you and a shout out to Chuck A., to James Kerwin, to Diana Hopkins. Yep. Halbert Gunn Janssen. Sorry, guys. I thought I was missing somebody. It's like, no, that can't be. This is the same old paper. Hey, Halbert, yes. And Lawrence Todd and Chris Jiggins and Mitch Keith and Keith Rombach and J.R. Poole, Pranakasha Productions, Comedy Forecast, Andrew Jazimski, thank you guys for being a TTLer. And our live wires, thank you so much. Hey, Toby Pellegrino, Elizabeth Stretz. Yep. Joshua Reeve, Gary Williams, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey. There we go. Can't be out of order. Oh, David Gall, MJ Frug, Chris Garris, Brandon Coles, Dave Gregory, Jesse at Crusher Convo. What is with me? I'm getting nearsighted here. Started to say Damian Runyon. Oh, that's funny. That's funny, Donna. And Casey Shafsky. Yes, indeed. I say that it's a very simple Patreon. It's $5 and $10 for the TTL support for the Trekland Live online. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. Really appreciate it. Got to give a shout out over here to the Trek Files. We're in season 15, another banger episode. I found out about this 8 years ago. I've been trying to get back through a pandemic and get back with our cast member from a 1994 actual licensed play in the UK of Star Trek, an original Star Trek script built for theater, a Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Scotty, Uhura, Sulu, Chekhov script, Klingons too, done on stage for several performances just outside London. Fully authorized, produced, So a fellow entrepreneur, Spirit Guy, runs a theater school here in LA now. He was the Spock in the cat. You have to see, and we have clips and the program cover and some photos. You want to see that too. thetrekfiles.com. Yes, the lost voyage, the really lost voyage of the Enterprise is our Trek Files episode this week, wherever fine podcasts are caught. But thetrekfiles.com is the official home on Memory Alpha with the links there right back in. The thing is, the Patreon for the Trek Files, our official community. We had our live meetup yesterday. We had Trekophiles spelled with an F tonight, last evening. Every other Monday at 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern is the official Trek Files. I know we've got a lot of listeners who don't know each other. It's kind of segmented. We finally created this memory space on the message boards and the live meetup. It's all part of the Roddenberry, the Patreon, the Mission Log Patreon that they have, which meets on Discord. Everything of the Trekophiles group is at Discord with all the rest of the Roddenberry. And for $1 a month at the basic level, you can access all of that, all the other Roddenberry podcasts, and their hangers out. And a lot of fans who run live meetups just for the fun of it, and they're not even Star Treks at times. There's a Battlestar Galactica that follows us on Monday night, every other Monday. Please give that a look. And I'm just so proud of this season. Has just been a banger season. They're always interesting, but I just feel like we've just been on a real roll lately. Helping people and exposing other corners. And today's TTL here is, even though I start off selfishly thinking about SoonerCon and ThunderCon, I'd like to think we're doing a PSA here for unearthing your own the local sci-fi Star Trek fandom history in your era, in your area, region, making sure the cons, the zines even, the zine cons, there were. Media West Con was all about the zines back in the day. Doing our part to poke that a little bit. Give the Eaton Collection at UC Riverside something to put in their files from now on. Anyway, gang, that's going to do it. Just a hint that if you are in the LA area, again, you want to be jumping in on the Trekland Treks, visiting 4 location sites you pick out with my help. You visit with my driving. We have an awesome day. Bring along whatever you need. And one more, just announced or reaffirmed here. If you are headed for STLV, or even if you're not, and you can spare an extra day in Vegas, just check out the Valley of Fire tour out where Kirk was killed in Generations, plus a couple of funky add-ons that have just popped up that were fun to discover that are Trek adjacent or very much Star Trek. Join me with this the day before. It's Con Eve, Tuesday. We'll be back by 2 p.m. Tuesday in time to get to the landing party that night, and then everything starts up that evening. Yeah. Valley of Fire trip. It's a Trekland Trek special because the big Geek Nation tour trip didn't make. This is a smaller footprint, speaking of overhead. So join me. I don't have the page fully figured out. We're going to be getting it up today, but I want to let you know if you're interested, perk up your ears and find me here in the next day or so. We'll have it all set up. All right. Very affordable, but it'll leave at 8 a.m. because it's an hour out to the Valley of Fire, aka Viridian 3. Right. Don't worry. We have special cloaks to mask us from the return of the Nexus. All right, everybody. That's going to do it for today. I'll be back next Tuesday here. Everybody, if you're leaving us right now, again, like and subscribe. Do all the things here on the YouTube channel, please. If you can't be with us live, check us out every week and jump in the comments. Love to hear from everybody, no matter where you see this. A lot of Trekland Tuesdays Live is evergreen, even when we talk about anniversaries. And if you're live with me here, we'll take a micro break and I'll be right back. But I just got to say, until we see each other next time, gang, hey, stay healthy, do all the things. Oh, stay awoke, check the sources, and trek well, everybody. Okay. Lordy. Well, we are fully landscaped here, live as well as later. Finally did that. Okay. Yes. Sean, or as I say, happy warp time, happy warp channel. Oh, Philip, are you an alum? Yes. San Diego State. That was where Star Trek Association for Revival started, had its first chapter. And Karen, I went blank on her name. Franz Joseph Schnabel's daughter Karen was a student, was a Trek fan in the early heady days of do-it-yourself Star Trek fandom. And she talked her dad into making, who was a blueprint draftsman, into making Star Trek prop, and then finally the Enterprise blueprints. And we got the tech manual, and we got the blueprints for it, and a whole field of fandom passion, and a whole barometer of dollar signs for the world at large to see, hey, maybe there's something to these kids in this Star Trek after all. Yeah. Book sales, and something that was so new it wasn't even categorized, the blueprint packet sales were a real barometer, even on top of the local station ratings. And even before the numbers, about the same time as the numbers showing up at this New York convention thing. All those numbers helped sell the idea that there was life in Star Trek yet. Because dollars are the reason for the season. Yep. Love to have more of a significant fan presence here that isn't just Comic-Con. Well, Philip, there have been cons. There is the Condor, is the old school lit con in San Diego, and I know they made it to the 50th because I was a guest at Condor along with Bijo and John, and along with Dorothy Fontana. I was never, and Denny. I was never so proud to be. I was one of the 3 guests along with them. Never so proud. Never so proud. Yeah. Oh no. Are we having an explosion today? Is that what's happening? Am I losing things here? I think I missed some of the earliest conversation because I think the conversation's exploded. I see I see a reference to the Delaney sisters. I'm coming in here. So it's just good to see I'm coming in at this point, gang. So I've lost the earlier chat. See, I missed all the setups for these, so I feel a little weird. Hey, Timothy, Schrodinger's cat's an angry cat, just like the memes. Sci-Fi Sisters tonight will be the Long Island kickoff, I think. There you go. That's an advanced kickoff from Tuesday to the weekend. Yay. Hey, Dr. Gould, had a walkabout today because I needed to get away from the chair of despondency for a while. Well, that's a good idea. Take care of yourself, man. Found the books in Indigo Books in East St. John. I love tripping over goodies. St. John. Trying to tell what that means where you are, doctor. Is that Newfoundland? We're not talking about St. John, Puerto Rico. So there's something. Sounds very East Coast-ish. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Duralta's here from Germany. Joel, yes, badges. We don't need no stinking badges. Yeah, that used to be an old con line. I miss badges. You get plastic laminates unless you're really a high up muckety muck and you get your name. You can always Sharpie on it, but it doesn't last sometimes depending on the plastic. Okay, Captain Calvin. Good evening to you from Twitch. See, you knew where I was. You knew where I was, Mona. Did we need some stinking badges? Yep. That was just like that was like the late 70s, 80s into the 90s. So Duralta, OAF was Oklahoma Association. It still is. They revived 10 years ago. Oklahoma Association of Fandom, but it was a dealer's collection that would go to like this in the era before conventions. They would be at swap shops and outdoor markets and things. And back in the day, it was old time radio and westerns and western serials and nostalgia TV, like Batman and the Munsters and the monster stuff, and horror and some classic sci-fi movie things. I remember there was a store that had collectibles at Shepherd Mall in Oklahoma City, and they used to have one of the heads of the aliens from this island Earth, I want to say. Or no, not a Battle Between the Planets. No, what was it? Anyway, they would have like classic 50s, 60s sci-fi and TV, but there wasn't much. But that was what it was. It wasn't about fandom. It was about the dealers that sold to fans. And they would do the first cons. And the first time I saw, it was a 2-day in a motel convention space, but it was simple. And it was all locals. People drove in and out, and my mom took me by and dropped me off. I got to stay 2 or 3, 4 hours. And that was the first time I ever saw the Star Trek bloopers. And I saw City on the Edge of Forever on 35 millimeter projected on a screen, which was huge. And it was either Tribbles or Mirror Mirror. There was a dealer who I met later on and knew quite well, who's in the Con of Wrath. The dealer who had the prints of about 8 or 10 Star Trek episodes and movies of all kinds. And he was always in demand. He would just stock the film room. Before we had videotape, conventions had film rooms. And you went in and you actually had a guy with a projector showing it. And occasionally, if it was an old print, the people would go, focus! The print would break. Occasionally, if it was really brittle. Live old school con days. That was what OAF was. And their badge just said OAF, but it was WinterCon 1975 in December, right before Christmas. See people going in for Christmas gifts. Now, my first overnight con was the second OCon in Tulsa at the old Mayo Hotel, which the badge was there. I had a sad story about some of those badges that I won't get into now. I'll save it for the book. What are you saying? But your first con was a TrekCon in Pasadena in 2002. Patrick Stewart was announcing something about Star Trek Nemesis. Oh, 2002. Yeah, they were still trying to keep, I think they were still trying to keep the Grand Slams going, even though Vegas had started to take over as the big deal. Is the HalCon badge I met you at still on that board? Having you sign my con book upside down and backwards was great fun. Oh, Dr. Gould, what HalCon? Where was this? You have to help me here. I'm glad you remember. I was just thinking how some of my con memories are getting a little hazy, and I need to clarify that. Let me know where that was. Sounds vaguely familiar now. Tell me where that was. Oh, Long Island Con. Yes. Long Island Trek. Is that what you're doing there, Astral? I think so. Yeah. That was our club t-shirt. The first club t-shirt, I think, unless they'd had one when it was just the high school kids. Yep. Your first convention ever was the WolfCon or something like that in Frankfurt or Offenbach on the border. And the convention hosted an interesting lineup. Terry Rothery. I've never said it out loud or heard it. Douglas Arthur, Paul McGillen, Ronnie Cox. I'm a yoga teacher, not a miracle worker. Oh, well, thank you. We're going to get your biography now, Captain. That's fine. My second sci-fi con, of course, the FedCon. And then some little conventions in your part of Germany, and then the German con in Dortmund. Did you ever go to the Galileo 7 cons? Captain, I was like at like 5 or 6 in a row after we flew to Germany the October after 9/11, the month after it, and people thought we were crazy. Hey, C3. No, you're the man. So not Thunder in Paradise. No. What's ThunderCon? ThunderCon is go. What's cool is, so the last ThunderCon was in 1998, I think. And what's cool is there have been at least 2 other places that took ThunderCon for their name. One of them was in Thunder Bay, Canada. And I think one of them may, whichever one, the later is still going, I think. I don't know if they have any, there's no Wikipedia. There's a ThunderCon mentioned on the SoonerCon Wikipedia page, but there needs to be a ThunderCon page all on its own, the original. Like that is, which one? I ran through 4. A couple of them were kind of simple con. Yeah. The 45th, look it up. Oklahoma's 45th Division in World War I and World War II, especially World War II, and Korea. And then as they downsized the military, they kept it, and they kept the Thunderbird. Was that a Comanche, Kiowa? I hate to say which tribal outline that was. Um, anyway, hope we got. Is that a? I think it is. I think. I think I got a bot that I will. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. Hope that wasn't a real person, but it looked like it was. I'm quite well. Time flies. Tempest future. Two cons enter, one con leaves. Okay, Joel, very cute. Yeah. You're confident that you're ready. Mortal Kombat, right. With Warp undiscontinued and Warp 3 coming up in 2027, in 2034 it'll happen everywhere at once and we can all meet. Okay. Oh. Oh my God, I'm here during a live. Yes, Jesse, you heard your ears were burning. That's why I threw you out there once or twice. I throw you out. I tossed you out there. I did a shout out. That's what we call it now. Good. Well, I hope you were here without your ears burning. So this isn't as cool as a SoonerCon trophy, but I will be passing out a fun item to bed fans at STLV. Keep an eye out. Absolutely. People should be keeping an eye out for you whether or not you're passing anything out. Hey, David, I'm an old fart, but I went to a lot of Star Trek cons in the 80s out in LA. They were great fun. They were the Creation cons. Yeah. Well, before Creation got cranked up out here, Bijo did, what were they called? What were they called? Because they were very early. As soon as the New York cons took off, they kind of jumped up to do their own out here too. Of course, LA had hosted some WorldCon. Lasfus had Lost Con, I think, going by then. They'd hosted some WorldCons. I know that. What were they? Equicon and FilmCon. We've had some Trek Files episodes about Equicon and FilmCon. One of them with B. Joe and John before John passed. Mm-hmm. Hi, other username Chris Garris. Yes, yes, yes. This is what I mean. You're of the generation there. And yes, yes. What? Looking right. Okay. Well, I said some things about a lot of people in this, so whatever it was, I'll take it. I'll take it. Oh. Mm-hmm. There. Yep. And hey, Duncan. Letter decks there. And Josh, it's fine. It's fine. I rambled a lot today. I think I clumped a lot in there. Well, Chris, I'm sure there's probably two or three more that I should have mentioned here. Yeah. Obviously, this is not for the Garrett, Robbie, uh, Johnny and Brent cycle, Sirach and Aaron in the beginning circle. I'm talking about fans that popped up and said, oh. Mm-hmm. Well, let's not get carried away. You're the what's the you're the assertive fans now. You see what needs to be done and you go and do it. There you go. Fill in those blanks. Right. Are we on the right YouTube channel? Uh, if I said Jesse, I meant Jess. Yes. Still remember reading Harlan Ellis's Exogenesis essay about fandom's dark. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And there's a lot more if I would stop and think. Some folks have podcasts and things that aren't quite as regular as you guys have been just recently, but or they're reporters. Got you thinking. Got you thinking. 43 years of, well, that was 40th anniversary of helping. Yeah, I think I did a story one week when I was desperate for a topic, and I did because that was, I think I did one last winter about it being 50 years since I went to my that little OFCon, WinterCon. Yeah, getting them up and going. There you go. Yeah. Did I not name check Dirk? I should have name checked Dirk. Yeah. Absolutely. Every time, oh, is it emojiing? Every time I do this, it's not for me. It must be for you. I don't know. Because this isn't Zoom. I'm restreaming. That's weird. Mm-hmm. Here you go. Baycon in the Bay. Baycon helped me write the companion because I had the talks that Rick and Mike gave at Baycon in the early days of TNG. I took transcripts, were online, and I used that as factoids for the companion before I had a chance to interview either one when I had to do it in 3 months, later 6 months. So I will always love Baycon, even though I was never there. Never there. All these cool media things have passed me by, but I've taken to writing my own novel and trying to create a new thing. Kind of old fashioned, but who knows? No. Hey, we're not gatekeeping on mode. Whatever floats your boat. That's, especially, and it doesn't affect anybody else except in a good way, hopefully. Con runners just could not spin, and in some ways, rightly wanted to stay true to lit and art, not so much media, but yeah, writing on the wall. Yep, you know what I'm talking about. And it's fine. If you wanted to go down off the cliff where nobody paid attention to you because you refused to change, that was your right. But just don't expect to sit there and shake your fist at the world evolving and then say wonder why. Yeah, people had chances. That used to be, again, that's why I started ThunderCon. This is the way we've always done it. Well, I had that with publicity. This is the way we've always done it. Well, you could do this. They took flyers to bookstores, and I go, what if we went to toy stores? What about libraries? What about all the free ways we can get publicity? Have you not thought about that? Oh, libraries. Oh, some wouldn't put it up, but some would. Mm-hmm. They had policies about because they didn't want to be drowning in people's flyers. But yeah, this is the way we've always done it. That goes for a lot of things. People that aren't getting it, that the world has changed. Yeah. Thank you, Melanie Jean. Modesto's all about Star Wars. Yep. And classic cars, American Graffiti, George Lucas's hometown. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Okay, thank you. St. John, New Brunswick. Gaming Con called Impossible Realities, and it refused. Mike Westmore has a great story about, I think it was HalCon when he was a guest. Does this ring a bell? Anyway, because he asked me if I knew any. He was going. No, Marion had a family reunion, and he was going, and he was like, "Is there any fandom activity in St. John, New Brunswick? Because I'm going to spend a week there, and I might as well meet some fans if they're up here." That was Mike Westmore. Are there any fans up here? Maybe we can have dinner. Of course they were. Of course they loved. Yep. Yep. There was this con in Dusseldorf. I'm sure there was. And no, it wasn't the FedCon. Went there for 2 years. Year one, everything was cool. Bob Picardo, Marina, Amanda Tapping, Bill Burr, and Robin Dunn. And then the next year, the convention imploded. That happens many times. That happened with a Firefly convention in LA. The first year was awesome. The second year, not so much. The big damn flanvention. Yep. He was still talking to the guests. It's more like the guests were still talking to him. Yes. Oh, fan films. My gosh, I totally forgot about fan films. Oh my gosh, yes, that Passion Point projecting and manifesting as fan films. Fan films is between conventions and the YouTube podcast era. And still is, but that's the birth. I cannot believe I left out fan films. Oh well. Oh yeah, including the ego, the turf wars, and all of that stuff. Con history. Sci-Fi Ball, which I finally got to go to one. Yay. FedCon both have produced DVDs in the past, but those are only like highlights, not the documentary styling. Yeah, although those DVDs will be perfect fodder for someone if they ever do a documentary. Yeah. The convention I just talked about, Trek Gate to Your Star. I never met Forey Ackerman, and we lived in LA before he died and the Acker Mansion was dismembered and taken apart and sold off. I'm so mad at myself. The first few years we were here, I didn't get myself over to the Acker Mansion and visit once. I'm so mad. That's like that's right up there with like I didn't find a way to finally talk to Matt Jeffries, although I was in the middle of it when his health went 360. Technical side note, Facebook has resumed updating the Facebook chat after refusing to do so for 2 or 3 months. No idea if the problem was Facebook, Restream, or my browser. Okay. Yay for that, Christoph. What are you saying? Oricon up this way. I wonder what way that is. Has held on to how it was in all the wrong ways and struggled far too much. It's no longer a thing here. This is what I mean. It's amazing. So I was so proud. Well, I thought SoonerCon died, but then people who wanted to bring it back, they took the name and some of the things. Boomer was the mascot. My friend Kevin came up with Boomer, little dinosaur. Now they've got this raccoon. The last 3 or 4 years, they came up with something else and a new font and everything. But for years and years, the old SoonerCon logo and Boomer was the mascot. Mm-hmm. Oh, Bill Blair. Yes, Bill Blair. Okay. Glad you could jump in with us. Remind me where you are sometime, VFX. The idea of trying to do a con in my area has crossed my mind. But like you said, you have to be careful to not lose your shirt or house. See, and Chris, in your case, you'd have to get people to your part of the. Where would you have it? In Corpus? Where would you see? You have to have a destination both for the guests to be able to get there without having to take 4 trips, 4 legs. It's like when licensing had the 30th anniversary con in Huntsville, Alabama, and everybody had to fly 3 legs of a flight to get there. As well as for the visitors, as well as for the fans. Yeah. And finding what's your size and the price point and all of that. Oh yes, FedCon happened. Academy cast was warmly welcomed with no negativity in sight, and they're a great gang, with one exception, but no negativity zone here. Oh, one exception. Okay, Christoph. Save it for ADT tomorrow. ADTE. Ask Dr. Trek European is this week, tomorrow, for all the Europeans. Yes. Don't put dumb, stupid, crooked people in power. That's what my grandma always used to say. Hey, Damon, Jay, are you new for Tuesdays or maybe not? Hey, from Canada, from SNW to Section 31 Academy, you know who this is. Oh, now you're going to put me from Canada. From Strange New to Section 31 to Academy, you know who this is. LOL. Oh, you're embarrassing me now. Okay. Are you going to stay lurking? Are you going to tell me, or on the side, or what? Am I just being stupid? Oh, don't put dumb, stupid, crooked people in power, and especially not those who run away from interviews, right? Just saying. Just saying. Talk about having your inability to process on the run. You know, like having the motor seize up in public. Oh, well. Too sad not to be funny. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, and Pedro's here now. Just got here from, oh, hi, Tim. Just got here from New Zealand, and boy, your arm's tired, right? Right. Glad you could join us. Oh, Narda. Okay. I hope everything's fine and well. Larry, stir the pot. Never. Why did they announce a AAA game featuring Ro Lauren? A AAA? American Automobile Association? What? Who asked for that? We could be getting remasters. Pedro, it's a licensee company. It's not the studio spending money. What happened to this? Where are you? There we go. You're talking about apples and oranges. This is a private company that makes games and does license games, and they wanted to do a Star Trek game, so they got a license. They got checked out and got a license. It's not the studio spending money for the game. Do you understand? Yeah, you can't go. Somebody wants to make, if Hero Within gets a license again, Tony's company, and they want to make jackets again from Star Trek, you can't yell at them for making jackets instead of the studio remastering. We all want the remasters to happen, but licensees, unless somebody is a studio remastering licensee, I mean, yeah. Okay, Ed, we will see. Excuse me, my figure. We'll see you later. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It's not my world, but the whole Stargate kerfluffle is, and if that is bigger implications, or if it was a specific issue, I see everybody talking about that. Yeah. You break you needle, featuring a macro Patreon list. I did. Okay. This is what the world has just uniformly kind of said this. Yeah. Monumentally stupid. And then the next day, the Bezos, Blue Origin's rocket blew up. Karma is a bitch. Yeah. Well, and thankfully nobody was injured or whatever around there, first of all. Yeah, this was really the way it was handled to commission it. Because but you had it again. It was why? Because a changing of the guard, and one or two people, and that's all it takes. And they don't even care that it's already been publicly made a deal about, and that they lose face. They're in a bubble and they don't realize the company, what happens to the company. It's like football coaches or coaches that come in and they don't realize that they don't have to be as uphill as they feel they are. Anybody new in a position, they don't use the universe. Well, this goes for far beyond Bezos, right? It's kind of the arrogance of, yep. Okay, are we getting down to the end of the chat as we know it? Okay, we're into the Stargate. Yep. We're into the Saturday Stargate Live. That's what we're, yeah. The reboot of Quantum Leap. Yeah, it was just, it wasn't, well, it was, you could say it was terrible. You could just say it was just pedestrian. It was just nothing special, nothing charming. No, nothing. It got canceled because stupid people make stupid decisions. Uh, yeah, Joel, landing party in less than 2 months. Oh my God, here comes Vegas. I finally made my hotel reservations 2 nights ago because of the delay waiting on the tour, which didn't happen. Well, okay, okay. Oh, Rose. Hi, Rose. Thank you so much, everybody. Chris, I've told you that those tin cans and strings are just not a real viable option. Yeah. I am Franz Joseph inspired so much fan fiction. Well, yeah, and Franz Joseph was the model that Starfleet Battles used in the beginning. His map. People think about the ships and the uniforms, but he did a star map in there, and his style with that. Yeah. Oh, okay, Sean. There you go. uh, oh, you guys, I'm going to let your little sidebars. As far as you know, there's still a Yuricon in the Czechoslovakia region, and there's Star Trek fan club there that has yes, Prague has they call it a continuum. The Prague club is who came down to Janet and me in Vienna at the World Tour in '99, and I was dumbfounded. And they got me to my father's homeland for the first time on that trip. Although we went back a couple times to Prague proper. I always have a soft spot in my heart for the Prague Star Trek Club. And they shot some fan films later. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Starbase Indy was established. I mean, Starbase Indy, Shore Leave, Farpoint, Starland in Denver by the 80s. Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. St. John. Somewhere along the way you said I see I'm backtracking. Somewhere I saw you said NB and I went, "Oh, okay." I couldn't remember if it was I thought it was New Brunswick, but I didn't know if it was if there's a St. John somewhere. Is there a St. John in South Carolina? Is there a St. John in Oregon? I didn't know. St. John's kind of feels like it might be kind of a quasi common name. Um, is it St. John, Puerto Rico, where the cruise docked last year? The capital of Puerto Rico? Is that what it is? Oh, Pedro, my favorite episode of Star Trek. Well, the easy question is what we had for 20 years. And I would say it's a tie between Doomsday Machine and Journey to Babel. So now that has to be my original series favorite episode. And it's Halcon. Well, thank you. Halcon is Halifax. That's why I was trying to put St. John in Nova Scotia. Uh, uh, uh. Okay, I answered you there, Pedro. Yesterday's Enterprise used to be my favorite episode of Next Generation. I just remember it being the most pivotal, consequential. Are there any con guests that are famous for canceling last minute? Well, some have a reputation for that. I won't say their name, but their initials are Robert Beltran. You were a armchair fan until you retired, so you didn't attend those older cons. Right. Oh my gosh, it's Scott! It's Scott in the room, everybody. Hey, you having a very boring day today, Scott? Is that it? Um. Oh, okay. I was going to say we might have met because we were there like 4 or 5, and they were never in the same city. They went to Bielefeld, and I need to dust up some of my personal con fandom memory here. Yes, Scott. Oh, you couldn't resist. First convention was at the Anna Hotel in San Francisco, 1986, with Majel Barrett and Leonard Nimoy, which means this is your 40th anniversary too. Well, yes. Just to clarify, my first con was in December 75. I was talking about the 40th anniversary of SoonerCon and helping start it, and then 35. But there you go. Were they promoting Star Trek 4? They had to be. They had to be. And San Francisco for Star Trek 4, my God. Yeah. Frakes canceled Destination some 5 times. Because he would get work. See, Frakes, go easy on Jonathan, because he was still directing and got work. Yeah. Well, see, he might have done the 3 Fed, but it just was about timing. And FedCons are in May, June, so, avoided it. Yeah. Sorry to hear that, Pedro. Warp 10 would be in 2034, so it would, yeah. Right. Yes, Joel. Or as Will Rogers once said, we're going to get out late tonight, folks. It's explaining the jokes that takes the time. There you go. Well, Dean Cain. Well, you'd be surprised. I'm just saying, you'd be surprised. Especially if you have a partner, then you can bounce off, Well, good. You had a good experience. That's good. Okay. There you go. There you go. I came this close to having Adam and Gary as sidebar guests in the Con of Wrath, and I talked to him about it. We just never get around to do it before we close the window. Let's see. Was there a hint that they would remaster some old games? I didn't remember that being out in the pipeline. Hey, I'm all for it. See, when it doesn't exist, just go out and do it yourself. See, it works. You better have somebody else though as an attraction on your guest list though. Mm-hmm. I don't know, David. See, I was never a zombie fan. I mean, I get a metaphor or whatever, but it was just not my thing. This is exactly it, Pedro. A lot of mom and pops, fan films, a lot of mom and pop stores, a lot of mom and pop conventions. Absolutely. There we go. Okay, good to know. Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan with a C. Yep. Just realized I am online at 6:18. Well, I'm trying. I'm trying. Yeah, this is a whole topic, guys, that I'll let you all get into from where we go. Hey, Myth Dustards. Shallow from Northeast Florida. Jacksonville area, right? Right. Cool. You talking about the truck files? That's cool. Good deal. Very ishish review here. Christoph is our European con reviewer. Did you know that? Oh, yeah, but it's still the company that they're Paramount Games is the licensing agent. Just like Paramount, it's split off. Instead of having someone in licensing do it, they've made gaming its own licensor. Yeah, so Paramount Games would not be the licensor to do remastered whatever. Oh, you ask for a Roloran survival horror game, maybe by Bloober, made by Bloober. Uh huh. This is true, Sean. The minute you get money together, people want to spend it. Then when emergency comes, like there's no contingency. Yes, this is with the cons, and apparently we saw it with some fan films. People get starry eyed and they get carried away and they don't pay attention to. Yeah, I was like, really? Do you guys have to be yet another one of those horror stories, those sad stories of goofy fans who got carried away and didn't have any kind of business sense or common sense with money? Yep, yep. Oh, that's the symbol for micro. I did not know. I probably knew that, but I'd forgotten it. So, okay. No, it's not. Apparently, it's not enough for me, Christoph. It's all good. Thank you. Shadow Frontier. That's the name of it. That's the name of it. Far beyond the pesos. Yes, the teaser trailer is out. People are talking about it. Well, Ro kind of transcends. She's secondary, but it's a combination. What's the budget for the voice acting? You know. Oh, we're still in this conversation. Corpus would be ideal, but it'd have to be in San Antonio or Houston to get nonstop flights. Otherwise, it's a minimum of one stop. Exactly. This is what I mean. Oh, hey, Dave. Dave Gregory got to bop in with us. There you go. Bump. I like the way you think, Christoph. Woohoo! Marina, 16th landing party. You mean the day? Hi, Marina. Landing party is, or the 16th. Is it the 16th landing party? No, we're not up to the 16th. Are we yet? No. Maybe so. Maybe it is number 16. Yes, Dave's in the house. Okay, well, we got all these sidebar conversations going. The game, the Stargate cancellation mess, Franz Joseph Schnabelt, or what was he called? He went by Franz Joseph Designs. Everybody thinks the guy who did the blueprints and the tech manual was named Franz Joseph, but his full name was Franz Joseph Schnabelt, because Schnabelt was, off-putting to American bland white lily-livered eyes and ears. Okay, all you guys having good conversations. You don't like remasters, you want a new game. Okay, that's it, Philip. You're out of here. You got to read the room of all majority fandom. We got to have better as the world moves along, and DS9 is seen to be a landmark series. It has to be better represented than the soft standard def from the 90s. Yeah, in our increasingly HD world. Increasingly, it's been HD world for 5 or 10 years now. Okay, this is like a party when some people. Thank you, San Juan. I should have known that. I'm brain dead, guys. Yeah, dumb on me. Dumb on me. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Well, see, some people would say that it wasn't necessary to preserve a game for future generations, but I think increasingly we're game minded, and that's silly. Somebody 50 years from now will say, "Why the hell didn't they know what they were doing? Just why did they erase videotapes? Why did they throw out photos? Why? People had no sense of the coming paradigm of what would be valuable in media." Okay. Oh yeah. Well, during the Babel is the first time we finally see the Federation working and get a sense of what it's like. And Spock's parents, but it's as I used to say, we finally had a glimpse of life off the stupid little Starship Enterprise. Wait, is this a breaking story or is it somebody's little clickbait? It was kind of small, even for where we were. No, I'm serious here. Has something broken in just the last few minutes about actually saying something out loud about the contract? I mean, definitively. Mm-mm-mm. Oh, she do. We have that. That's going to be a Trek Files episode sometime. We can figure out what's the right, guest and all to put with it. Well, it got kind of thin midway, but the fourth season finally was starting to be the show everybody thought it was going to be all along. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. Okay. Well, I'll let the Dean Kane sidebar go. I'm kind of. Thank you, doctor. Doctor, nurse, doctor. Absolutely. And you feel fine. Let's see. Are we there? We there? Let's stay civilized. Always a nice thing. This is like having a party where you start hinting to people it's time to go. Scary how Tempest Fugit. Yes, Maria, including like right now today. Look at you, Christoph. Jump in here and be my stage manager. Thank you. Wow, Joel. Very good. In a row, huh? It's just his name. I can't help his name. That's what his name is. Yep. What? You guys, did I see one of the Star Trek YouTube channels redid the Star Trek visual effects with models? He filmed all the Enterprise shots. I wish Paramount would integrate those into the movie. Maybe, sort of, kind of. I've seen some animation and CG things. Chris, landing party is what you are getting there in time to do. Tuesday night, trivia, team trivia with prizes and sponsors at Masquerade. Maybe it's the 15th year. We started the last year, we had a version of it the last year we were at the Hilton, and then it came over to Masquerade. Well, Melanie, I never know what I'm starting either. One of these days we did the YouTube countdown thing. Sorry about that. Because videotape was expensive and nobody saw the point of keeping old shows because you've already seen it. Why would you want to see it again? You know how that ends. You know what they said. Yeah. Link to the video, special effects. Okay. Yes, and John can come back in this year and be a co-host once again, as we has done since the beginning. Yep. Oh, Mr. Mealy Mouth Brit. Okay, yes. Thank you. And yet, how many subscribers does that guy have? That guy does great work. /S. Yeah. Tachyon pulse is not what we used to laugh about being the trusted. To me, tachyon pulse is just noise. But he gets lots of clicks for his noise and his headlines. Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you, Chris. Okay, it was just another Mr. Mealy Mouth headline. It's funny because they don't have near as much traction as they used to, so they're more desperate to get the views, the clicks. If you're coming in at 10 in the morning, Chris, you better be there. Yeah, I'm usually, when I say check the source, I'm usually talking about fake news, deep fake, crap AI images, and just stupid 180-degree opposite facts. But that would go for soft sources. Who's the other guy that quotes Tachyon Pulse? And he's a writer who sells his own books, and that's fine. But it's just like he just always takes the most negative, quietly angry take on everything. The world is just, dark and whatever. Okay, it's the 16th landing party. Jesus Christ. Okay. Again, the numbers are adding up. We started in 2010. Were you there? So the first time we did it, it didn't have a formal name, but we did it as the last night for everybody who didn't go to Picardo's auction on the last night, and they didn't leave until Monday when there was nothing, when it shut down at 6. There was nothing happening Sunday night, and we got together. John had his John and Mary had his prize, has DVDs they reviewed, and it was Charity and Chris and me. And we did a thing over in front of the Experience was closed, but the Space Quest bar was still going. We were in that area over there. And then the first year at the Rio, we were in the Irish pub bar. And it was the year before. Yeah, that's right. Oh my God, it was. Because the first year we had the tour was 2012, and we'd already had it going by then. And the bar with the Irish pub was closed down, and we had to do it in the Masquerade from 2012 forward, except for the year the plumbing broke at the Masquerade. Yeah, be cautious of Tachyon Pulse. You're gonna, if you're watching him, you're gonna add to his clicks. Yeah. For the record, you're neither a convention reviewer nor a stage man. No, Chris, you're great. Christoph, you're great. You're great. You're great. I'm teasing, and that was all said with affection. Yeah. Although I have seen him actually covering other franchises lately with that same insider thing. Yep. Oh, Sean, you sound like you're like right out of 1984 or 1973. Yep. Okay. Hey, Tim, I'm glad you dropped by. It's been a while. Yes. Spectrum is green. Captain Scarlet and Mysterians. Hey, Marina. Chris Garris, see the list of fan organized events SDOV Star Trek Experiences Group. The info and landing portal will be shared there as soon as Larry has it. Well, we can still say 9 o'clock in Masquerade. I need to get the sponsors nailed down. Okay. Gosh, is this chat ever going to end, kids? We're still talking about the Leroy Lauren game. Okay. Yeah, that's him. That's him. Yeah. I don't know about this at all, but okay, fine. Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, we'll see if that happens, but it's been 9 o'clock for forever, Chris. Are we here? Okay, we're here. Boom and boom and boom. Okay, and boom. And there we go. Gang, that was the time. I hope somewhere in all this, I hope I stirred up some convention dust there a little bit. But anyway, once again, great to see everybody on a Tuesday. I'll be back next Tuesday. I'm pretty sure. Yes, still Tuesday. Unless something crazy happens. But we'll see you next Tuesday live. Once again, it's another huge fun. I am so proud of what we're doing with the Trek Files right now. I always am. But this is another really fun nugget from history that had been forgotten, and we finally got to make it all happen together. TheTrekFiles.com is our page on Memory Alpha. You can see there's a player right there with the audio, with the documents, with this week photos and a program cover. You want to see it from the 1994 actually licensed, official, approved, original play in Greater London from 1994. Original cast. Characters, not the cast, but the characters. With photos of them. It's awesome. TheTrekFiles.com. And don't forget, if you want to be part of the Trekophiles community officially in our message boards, it's $1 a month for the Roddenberry Mission Log Patreon, which is housed on Discord. That's where the meetup is. That's where our boards are. All the other Roddenberry, everything, the meetups, the live events, the boards, you get access to all that for as little as $1 a month. Absolutely. Also, of course, if you're here, I'm loving everybody in my Patreon. So thank you, $5, $10 folks. Once again, it's patreon.com, Trekland Live, and you can get a shout out and be on this list and access our earlier Portal 47 guest interviews from back in the day, although they're evergreen. You know, what you did is what you did. All the socials are there at Larry Nemechek on Blue Sky and Twitter, X. Larry's Trekland on Facebook, on Instagram especially, and especially portal47.net. Your backstage pass to more in-depth Trek. Now bearing down on 11 years before all these newbies were here, we were talking to not the actors to get you more in-depth Trek from what they're doing. And yes, once again, if you're headed to Vegas and you have a Tuesday clear, or you can clear up the Tuesday, if you can get there by 8 a.m. to the Rio, just letting you know, I'm going to offer this when it went away from Terrace. Oh, come on, give us the black. There we go. Valley of Fire tour. It'll take about 6 hours. It's 8 a.m. and we'll be back at the Rio by 2. Hopefully I'll have at least 4 people to make. The page is not ready yet, but stick a pin in that. You'll see me on socials and know. And of course, anytime you're headed for LA, we can set up a good old Trekland Treks, a 4-stop, for the most part, tour that you want to see with my consulting and management, and then, chauffeuring and concierging. We'll make it work. It'll be awesome. Your own live action away team, one for the lifetimes. Gang, that's it. Thank you for helping me go down memory lane. I have to repair my combat, get everything back in order the way it was, get the pins all back in the way we used to do con badges, right? And then if you were a speaker or committee or staff or something, you had your ribbon. It's sad. This is like looking at my cousins that were older than me and seeing all their ag ribbons, and the blue ribbons had faded to this pink purple. Well, it happens everywhere. If you were the chairman, you had a black ribbon, I think, with the go. Anyway, thanks everybody for being here again for another Tuesday. Love for anybody who wants to jump in the portal with us. That's my business that makes the wheels go around here. A lot of portal folk were here. I showed you portal47.net. Check it out as we bear down on our 11th anniversary this fall. It's amazing. It's amazing. And then a year of so many other anniversaries. Right. We will see you next week, everybody. Please, please, please stay healthy, do the things, and please stay awoke and check the sources if there's any doubt. And even when there is no doubt, check and see what you're reading is fake or what is something that is amazingly crazy that you've never heard it before. It's either probably very true or very not true, one extreme or the other. I'm getting at least one new, some of these Instagram channels, you feel like they're bots and trolls, but they're not. They're uncovering history related to individuals, marginalized people who were rolled over, steamrolled, had their fame taken, their valor stolen, or their fame stolen. So many lost and like atrocious tragedies, mutinies, traumas that were buried. Even things like the Tulsa race massacre, things that were buried and came to light finally. So many of those kind of incidents from colonial times, much less throughout Europe, America, all over the world. And that's why I say check the sources. I appreciate those. I can't imagine someone making that up. People ascribe George Washington Carver with all these food products, but it was really this white guy. That doesn't happen that direction. Anyway, we live in a time when all kinds of crap is coming down the road at us, and it's been AI enhanced. So even more so, check the sources. Yeah. Everybody, have a good week till we see you. I'll see all the portales that are European and midday folk tomorrow. Otherwise, the rest of you, will see you down the line. Follow the Route 66 caravan. Follow the Route 66 official. Follow them as they cross the country. There's live videos also, as well as videos and stuff. A lot of fun things are happening. In a world like right now, it's some good-hearted Americana humanity. Yeah. Trek well, everybody.